Some of the world's most used applications are chat applications. People are using them for all manner of communication. But the question is, can these applications be used in real life business scenarios? Well, my guests today are Bankole Oluwafemi and Seyi Taylor, co-founders of TechCabal.com. Welcome to Tech Trends.
Thank you very much.
All right, I was looking up your profiles on the internet, and I saw that you studied medicine. How did you find your way into tech blogging?
Well, it's a long road from an interest in technology and media from in medical school to working in marketing communications and then eventually co-founding this firm.
So do you still practice?
No.
Bankole, you also studied law.
Studied law.
So how did you find your way into this?
I kind of found my way into it. Long road as well. Started doing media stuff, graphic design, web design, while I was in university, and I stumbled into a technology event just before my bar final.
While you were studying law?
I was studying law, and I began to write about technology, so started a blog, and we're here today.
So were you called to bar?
I was called to the bar.
And ever go to
wedding gown, did the whole...
the whole shebang, went the whole 9 yards.
And then dumped it afterwards?
Oh, well, I saw inside of the court during my court attachment, but right after the call to bar, it was just straight to media.
All right, talking about chat applications, how do you see that the usage of chat applications in Nigeria today?
It's explosive, really. We were just looking at the recent stats, and Facebook, 50 million active users every month, Twitter, so 2 million in that range. The uptake from the early 2000s has just been insane, and it's a global phenomenon, people adopting all these chat applications, but we're also seeing that groundswell happening across the continent, a lot in Nigeria as well.
Actually, which of them are your favorite, and why do you like them?
I try to use as many chat apps as possible just to get a sense of how they're different. Obviously, I probably spend quite a bit of time using WhatsApp, but I also use WeChat also quite a bit. We've launched a publication that sits on WeChat now. And then, I've also experimented with others, Telegram, Snapchat, etc., etc.
But the confusion I think the average Nigerian or the average guy on the street would have is, which of these should I use? I mean, there's BBM, there's WeChat, there's WhatsApp, and lots more that we don't even use in this part of the world. What do you think about that?
There are quite a few chat applications, possibly because of the size of the opportunity. 6 out of 10 of the most downloaded apps in the world are chat applications. In some markets, chat applications account for close to 70% of the messaging that happens on the network. So that's obviously why a lot of companies are getting into it to try and create. And what you tend to see is that in different markets, you have different chat apps that eventually take the lead and become the primary chat app, quote unquote, especially as a result of the network effects that are. So I have a chat application. To communicate with the chat application, all my friends must have. So obviously you get to the one that has most of your friends. Eventually, there isn't so much of confusion. There will be different reasons. Some people who are, for example, more privacy focused might want to use applications that are that have more privacy features. Some that are more interested in imaging might want to use those that are better with pictures and using picture messaging and so on and so forth. Eventually, people find their place, and so confusion isn't what should be. I think people should just have fun and enjoy, experiment, and then find what works for them.
So, Bankole, from the research carried out, which of these apps did you find that Nigerians were using the most?
Anecdotal, evidence, Facebook is still, in the lead, and we also know that there is quite a bit of WhatsApp usage. One of the issues that we actually battle with is actually, real empirical data, that we can say these are the actual numbers. We also know that, some people have tried to make inroads into the messaging space. So some of the OEMs have launched their own proprietary apps on top of their own proprietary OSs. We're seeing the likes of, again, like you said, WeChat, making a foray into that space, and they came on the back of some e-commerce applications, and we're hearing that the numbers are pretty decent. So,
She let's look at the business side of chat applications.
Right.
How can I use it to make money in Nigeria today?
Okay, good. It's a very good question you asked. All over the world, there are some questions. Obviously, if so many people are using chat applications, is there going to be any real money to come out of it? In terms of learning how that is going on, I think the best place for us to look at is Asia, where they have actually started monetizing their chat applications very well. An example, for example, is WeChat. WeChat has the highest average revenue per user for a chat application at $7. They've made about $1 billion in 2014 with transactions that have gone on. And how do they do it? Basically, what they've done is they've enabled people to transact business on the chat applications. They've enabled people to do anything from booking taxis to buying tickets to even buying phones. E-commerce goes on that application. And that you can see that going across, even across Asia. On Asia, for example, they even sell things like stickers, graphics that people can buy. It has created an entire business ecosystem. And I think that other chat applications, Facebook, for example, just recently launched something very similar to that, begin to copy that because they're seeing that, in the amount of communication that goes on and the amount of time that is being spent on mobile phones by people, there is the opportunity for businesses to be inserted into that communication so that you can do anything from search for a restaurant and pay for your food while chatting with the restaurant or book a taxi or so on and so on.
And you think we can replicate those systems here as well?
Africa is a mobile-first continent. We find that we spend most of our internet time, a lot of our internet time in chat applications. It's a logical place for businesses to go and meet and reach their customers. And it's a local place. And you're beginning to see the beginnings of that if you think about it. You see people doing selling, hey, I've got stuff, and they put it on their chat application, BBM or whatever. Hey, I've got this to sell. And they actually, conduct the transaction and say, send me the money. This is the picture of the thing, send me the money, and so on. And for small businesses, even some of the larger e-commerce have tried that for customer support and so on and so forth. The latent behavior is there. What obviously needs to be now is the infrastructure and the support and the actual framework to do it at scale. But the behavior is there. People are comfortable with doing that inside those chat applications in Africa. I don't see why. I think it's a great opportunity for us. And I think that, to be perfectly honest, that is where e-commerce at least will definitely go in the medium to long term.
Okay, Bankole, I have a two-in-one question for you. Number one, why don't we have a homegrown chat application that is popular? And number two, how can we get our guys here, local developers, enthusiasts, to tap into the opportunities that this chat application already have?
The world is a global village. I'm sorry to use the cliche. Products that are made in one locale can span geographies, and there is really no need to reinvent the wheel when things work. Basically, all you need to do is find a solution that no one has solved, or if there is something that has worked in the US or in Asia, and you find a way to adapt that to the local context, then there is an opportunity there. You go after that. What is to say that there will not be an application that will come out of Africa and actually go to the world? There is nothing to say that. In fact, WhatsApp, some of these apps that have gone global, Skype, they are not from Silicon Valley or from the US. They came from pretty obscure locations in the world, and Africa is on the cusp of that. So I hope that addresses that question. To the question of how African developers or Nigerian developers can actually participate in the opportunity is actually something that we've been thinking a lot about, because the opportunity is super ripe right now with all of the activity that we're seeing, people spending so much time inside of mobile applications. And that is why we came up with an event concept where we said we're actually going to not only discuss the future of mobile applications and chat apps in terms of how we will transform business, but also find ways to actually enable small businesses and developers who can scale their businesses using that platform. And at the Africa Beta event in October, we'll be talking about all of these. We'll also be doing something that is called an Ideathon, where they'll be presenting ideas to a pretty Pan-African and global stage in terms of how they're going to be leveraging, messaging platforms to scale their businesses forward. We're seeing all kinds of emergent behavior from e-commerce. There's just such a groundswell of that, since 2010. We're seeing on-demand, the whole on-demand and sharing economy, from taxis to people ordering food. We're seeing people doing discount businesses, promos, coupons, price comparison. Content businesses are flourishing, exploding. So there are just so many products that will benefit from doing business right in the place where people are. People spending 70% of their time in chat applications. Where do you want to be? It's inside the chat application with them. And that's what we want to do with that event. People can just go to africabeta.co, check it out.
I want to thank you guys so much for being on Tech Trends today.
Thank you so much, Brad.
And wish you guys all the best in your event. On our Tech Clinic today, Stella sends an email and she's asking what is the safest way to ensure her email account doesn't get hacked. Well, Stella, a number of things will ensure that your email account doesn't get hacked. But the primary recommendation I have for you today is that you should set up what is called two-factor authentication, which would mean that besides your password, you will need to also enter a code that will be sent to you via SMS or through an app. Otherwise, you won't be allowed access into your account. So this provides an extra layer of security. However, I must say that when it comes to the internet, no solution is 100% perfect. There are a number of people who have set up these two-factor authentication, yet hackers still struck. So for me, I just do the best and leave the rest. But make sure that your password is strong and unique. Feel free to interact with us via social media or email as displayed on your screen. It's a wrap on this edition of Tech Trends, but the conversation continues online. You can watch the entire show on the channel's TV YouTube account or via my blog. See you next time.